Just booked your first flight and now you're curious about what you need to know and what you can expect. In this video, I'll be sharing everything you need to know about your first flight. So I've broken down all of the information into a 3-part video series. So the first video will be all about what you need to know before your flight. The second video will be all about the airport and how to navigate it. And then the third video will be all about the flight itself and what you can expect during it. There will be a 4th video, but that will just be a compilation of all of the videos. So if you're hopping into this series late and you want to save a little time and energy and just watch the whole thing in its entirety, you can do that. So definitely make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss a video. Today, I'll walk you through the travel documents you'll need, key baggage rules, and when to arrive to the airport.
Hey, I'm Kimberly, and this is KRod Collective, where I teach you how to travel solo, travel smart, and help you fall in love with Spain.
Now, I'm assuming you've already bought your ticket, so I won't go into finding cheap deals or buying tickets. However, I do want to mention that a lot of different airlines have different types of tickets. And some of the things that I'm talking about in this video are going to vary depending on the airline that you're flying with and the type of ticket that you bought. The travel documents that you'll need for your flight depend on where you're traveling. If you're traveling domestically, which is within your own country, most countries require 2 things. Number 1, you'll need a government-issued ID, so something like a passport, a driver's license, a military ID, and you'll also need your boarding pass. This is what you're going to use to get on the plane, but don't worry about that. We'll talk about that later. If you're in the US, you need to make sure that your ID is a real ID. If you need more information on that to learn what it is or see if you have one or figure out how to get one, definitely check out this video right here. I've also linked it up here in the cards and down in the description box. If you're traveling internationally, you'll want to check to make sure that you don't need a visa. The easiest and safest way to do this is to start with your government's website. If you're in the US, the US State Department website has information for every country, and it will tell you if you need a visa or not, depending on how long your stay is, and it even provides links. The link to their website will be down in the description box below. And the reason why I like to start with this is because it's the safest way. There are a lot of scams regarding visas and traveling and airports, and I have seen way too many people get scammed by giving away their passport information and their personal information on websites that will claim to help you get a visa, and it's not legit. So make sure you are starting with your government's website. Another thing that you'll want to check is your passport validity. A lot of countries will require that your passport is valid between 3 and 6 months after your travel dates. So you'll want to double check based on your destination and your airline. So let's talk about luggage. Maybe you already have luggage for your trip, maybe you don't, but let's touch on what you need to know. There are different types of luggages, and they're usually broken down into 3 categories. Personal item. This is usually referring to a small backpack, a purse, small underseater luggage, or a small duffel bag that can fit underneath the seat in front of you. Next is hand luggage, and this is what we call in the US carry-on luggage. This usually refers to a small suitcase on wheels, a larger backpack, or a duffel bag that can fit into the overhead bin. And then lastly, a checked luggage. This is a larger piece of luggage that is too big to fit underneath the seat in front of you and also too big to fit in the overhead bin. And so this one is usually checked in with the airline before you go through security, and it goes under the belly of the plane. Now, you can pay to check your luggage even if it isn't a larger suitcase. And the options of how to check a luggage are going to depend on your airline. Some airlines have them already incorporated into your ticket, so something like 1 or 2 free checked bags with that particular ticket. And then with other airlines, you may have to pay an additional fee. You can keep track of your luggage weight. Is if you have a scale, you can step on the scale without the luggage, hold the luggage, step on the scale, and then whatever the difference is how much your luggage weighs. It is important to note, though, that there are certain things that you cannot put in your checked luggage, such as electronic items that use a lithium-ion battery, such as a laptop, a camera, a portable phone charger, like a power bank, for example. And a good way that I like to think about it is if it has a rechargeable battery, put it in your carry-on baggage, not your checked baggage. Both carry-on and checked luggages have size and weight restrictions. And this is going to vary depending on the airline. So make sure you are checking with your airline and with your ticket to see what those are. Some airlines are a bit stricter with enforcing these rules. I have found that airlines in Europe, for example, tend to be a lot stricter about enforcing weight and size restrictions. However, I do feel like the rules and guidelines in the EU have been changing so rapidly, so I don't find this to be the case. It doesn't seem to be as extreme as it used to be, but I do still feel like they're a lot stricter in Europe than they are, say, in the US, for example. There are also scales and these things called bag sizers that you can find throughout the airport. Sometimes you'll find them at the gate, the gate is the area that you will actually be boarding the plane. And then sometimes you can find them at the check-in counters, and this is where you first enter the airport before you go through security to check in for your flight. But don't worry about that. We'll get into that in the next video. But if you ever feel in doubt, definitely find an airline employee that can point you to the right direction to check the size of your bag or the weight of your bag. Another thing that I like to use, especially if you feel like you might be say you're taking a trip and you know that you're going to be buying a lot of souvenirs, or maybe you're going shopping and you're going to be having a lot of things in your suitcase. Something else that you can do is purchase a small digital luggage scale. I love these things and they're pretty lightweight, really easy to use. All you have to do is tie it into the top handle of your luggage, pull up, and then that will give you the weight of your luggage. So you'll know how much your luggage weighs, you'll know if you're in line with your airline, and if you have more room to pack more things.
So, something happened to the audio files of the second half of this video, so I have to refilm it. And I cannot wear the same clothes and pretend like it's the same day. It's not. I'm here refilming it, and that's okay. So let's move on. Let's talk about some luggage rules. So luggage allowances are also another thing that varies by airline and by ticket. There are some stricter budget airlines that only allow you to bring 1 or 2 small bags that can fit under the seat in front of you, and any additional bag that you want to bring with you, you may have to pay for it separately or buy a higher fare ticket to include those bags. So for example, we see that with airlines like Ryanair in Europe, Vivo Airbus in Mexico, and Spirit Airlines here in the US. So it's good to get a little familiar with the baggage rules and regulations of the airline that you're flying with to know what is and isn't included in your ticket. One thing you might want to consider doing is making your luggage easy for you to identify. You could do this by adding a brightly colored luggage tag to it. You can also buy colored luggage. And if you want some extra security, I would highly suggest throwing an AirTag or a tile or some sort of tracker inside. Even if you're not checking your bag, you'll still want to do this. Because sometimes as you're boarding the plane, especially if you are in the last group to board, the overhead bin space might fill up pretty quickly and you will be asked to check your bag. And in that case, you'll still be able to track it and know where it is, even if you hadn't planned on checking it. Before you fly, another helpful thing to do is go ahead and download the Airlines app. This way you can get updated in real time of changes to your flight. When you check in for a flight, essentially what's happening is you're telling the airline, hey, I booked this flight and I'm actually going to be there. I will be flying in the plane to this destination. Now, most airlines will let you check into your flight online 24 hours before your flight. And this is also where you'll usually be able to see all of the details for your flight. If you have an iPhone, I have a pro tip to sharing your flight information with your friends and family. The easiest way to do this is just text them the flight number. Once they receive it, they will hold down on that flight number and a preview box will pop up, and that will give them all the information on your flight. The flight number, the departure destination, the arrival destination, and it'll even show a tracker as you're flying in the air. I know this works for iPhone. I think it works for Android, but I think there's a few extra steps with Android, and I will go ahead and link those steps down in the description box below. Now, I know the question that a lot of people want to know is how early should I arrive to the airport? Most travel experts will say that for a domestic flight, which is within your country, you want to arrive 2 hours before your flight. And for international flights, you want to arrive 3 hours before your flight. I tend to agree with this, and this is usually what I stick to. And because this is your first flight, I would give yourself some time, arrive to the airport early, just in case security is backed up, and you have a little time to get your bearings within the airport, and you aren't being rushed. There are some great websites and apps that you can check to see
what the security wait times are at the airport. The My TSA app is a great one that will show you wait times. There is a great website called TSAWaitTimes.com. And also, if you live in Atlanta, there's also a website, I think it's atl.com/times, that will also give you the wait times for the security in the Atlanta airport. And I'm pretty sure every airport in the US probably has an equivalent website, but I will link these websites and all this information down in the description box as well. Keep in mind that the time on your ticket and the time that you booked that flight is departure time. So that is the time when the plane is scheduled to push back from the gate and leave. And boarding usually begins anywhere between 30 and 50, 60 minutes before the flight, depending on if it's domestic or international, and of course the airline. Now, on your boarding pass, there should be a boarding time, but again, we'll go into that in the next video. So to quickly recap, what you need to know before your flight is know which travel documents you need to bring, double check your luggage and your luggage rules, get a little familiar with your airline, and get to the airport early. In the next video, I will be covering everything you need to know about the airport step by step. Now, if you want to get a head start before the next video and you want to learn a little bit more about TSA security and what you need to be prepared for, definitely check out this video right here, and you can watch the next video right here. See you inside.